Hello and welcome to the Dreaming and Doing podcast with me, Nicky Raby. I'm an actor, coach, writer, speaker, podcaster and a mum. And in my coaching work, I work with creatives, personal brands, freelancers and small businesses. In my podcast, I talk about success, but not in a traditional sense. I have conversations with those who have built a business from something they love or who have made a pivot in their career. Also those who have built a brand or a job that maybe didn't exist when they were at school, and they found a way to monetize their skills, talents and expertise. I've spoken to loads of incredible people, coaches, designers, journalists, app creators, magazine editors, bloggers, content creators, authors, and all-round movers and shakers. I ask the questions that you want to know the answer to. So how they started, about money, saying no, saying yes, pitching, presenting, putting yourself out there even though it terrifies you, standing out in a busy online world, growing, scaling and making your work for you and your circumstances. The show notes are always at nickyraby.com/podcast, and the conversation continues across social media, often on Instagram, my favourite platform, at Nicky Raby. Thanks so much for listening. It's great to have you with us. In today's episode, I talk to Hannah Feldman, who is the co-founder of the app Kedaddle. We haven't had any technology chat before, and I was really intrigued to talk to Hannah and ask her about that world. I know nothing about it, and I found it really fascinating. Technology needs money, and so we talk today about going for investment, what that process looks like, where to begin, and how to get people on board with your idea. And also how you grow a company, how you build a team, how you get the word out there, and how you follow your passion for what it is that you are meant to be, that you're meant to do in the world. Lots of really great business strategy in here, so feel free to grab a piece of paper and a pen. The conversation will continue over on Instagram. Come over at Nicky Raby or on my website to the show notes, nickyraby.com/podcast. I've got lots of things coming up, so feel free to have a little nosy around my website. Also, I've opened up some strategy days for July and beyond. I've opened up my calendar a little bit. So if you are in London and you want to come and have a day with me working on your business, I would love to hear from you. Anyway, let's get into the episode. It's a goodie. Enjoy. Hannah, morning.
Morning, hi Nicky.
This is an early morning, Sunday morning, 8:30 podcast recording. So I'm wearing an interesting outfit, which I'm glad that it's a podcast so you can't see. Anyway,
you've got to describe it a bit.
It's tartan. That's all I'm going to say. And it's not
I've got soaking wet hair, so that's all right.
So let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what your business is.
Sure. Well, I'm Hannah Feldman. I'm co-founder of Kedaddle, which is a business that's all about making extraordinary family memories. We set up to go out and show parents around London that they can discover the most incredible things to do for their children, personalise the ages and interests of their kids, and they can discover it all in the convenience of their mobile phone, and they can book everything in 4 taps. So we've made it easy as pie for a mum who's stirring the spaghetti bolognese while thinking about what am I going to do tomorrow morning, everything in between.
Yeah, how am I going to fill those 18 beautiful hours that we've got to
Absolutely. And it came from a personal kind of pain point of mine. You know, when my kids were born, had a career in the city and everything had been really easy technologically to come across. And when you have kids, you realise that actually technology doesn't really serve the parent market at all well. And actually finding things to do to engage your family and make those memories together at the touch of a button was not what was happening for me. I was sitting there doing dead-end Google searches for hours and days on end, finding things that were either sold out or the kind of time-out model where things were, a shop window of what was available, but never actually when I wanted to go. And I just couldn't believe that in my business life I had all the tools to find things easily and successfully, whatever I needed for my job. But as a parent, I felt like a second-class citizen, and I just couldn't believe we were in the dark ages in terms of giving parents the information they need at the time they need it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's that immediacy of I need to leave my house right now in the next 37 seconds, and we need to try and do something fun so none of us lose our minds, because that sort of sense of it has to happen right now, and it has to be flipping open. The amount of times where you go, oh, that church hall is now closed until a week on Wednesday. How did the leap into the technological world occur for you?
By quite a surprise. I've always been kind of working with clients and advising people for years and years and years, and I really don't have a technology background, but I met my business partner, who's another mum called Sophie, about 3 years ago, and she had started a foray into working with technology after running a conference business for over 20 years. And she introduced me to a whole world that I knew nothing about in terms of product roadmaps and developers and, pricing up tech builds and all the details that come with a product that you'd see on your phone today when you download Cadaddle. There's so much in the background in terms of technology and bringing together the technology interface that I was completely not used to, and had to do a lot of learning in a very short amount of time.
And how did you know that it was that you wanted to start a new chapter, as it were? How did you know that city life was no longer going to work?
Because when you're in city life and you have one kid, let alone the 3 kids I have now, you realise that fundamentally, if you're in a client service business, the client has to be served at all points and at all times. And any element of flexible working, of course, you can try your best to do it, and you can not log on a Friday, or you can not log on the evenings, or whatever works for you. But the reality is, pull is always there to a force outside of yourself. And even if you're trying to work within confined hours and days, it's very hard in a service business to actually continue to stand up and say no. And it is very relentless in terms of the pressure and the hours, and actually you don't build anything empirically for yourself, which has always been a massive driver of mine. Like, can I go out and build something that solves a problem I have and solves a problem for millions of others, that I can get to the end of my days whenever they are and actually feel proud of a journey I've been on? When you're fully in the corporate world, of course, we all have our personal journeys, but mine never felt as meaningful to me as a journey would be of a creation within the business sense. I'm not talking about going and painting a canvas, but I'm talking about my own version of that, which is building something from scratch. And so it was a case of always wanting to do it, but never either having the confidence or the right idea, and having opportunities come my way that just didn't feel true to me. So I had lots of people coming saying, would you build X or Y business with me? But it just felt in my waters not the right fit. So until I met Sophie, I'd never found the yin to my yang, and I'd never found the person that loved to do everything I don't, and the person that has the skills that I don't have, and I have the skills that she doesn't have. And it just felt right. But it took years of it feeling wrong to do that.
That's so good in terms of there's so many pieces of that, of really finding a business partner who can do the things that you are not necessarily your skill set. Because I think sometimes you can get to that stage where there's 2 mates going, yeah, we both love yoga, so let's do like yoga stuff, and then they go, oh, hang about, nobody's actually looked at the finances here or how that's going to work. How did you learn that aspect of yourself of how to be really instinctive and hold out and wait for the right opportunity?
I think it's a mixture of luck and judgment. In terms of the judgment, it is about really looking at yourself, on an ongoing basis and saying, what am I put on this earth to do? What are the things that I can do better than most people around me, which are going to be few and far between, right? But you're going to know your standout points. And then actually realize that a lot of the time you attract people, as you just mentioned, like yourself. So, if you love yoga, you're going to find loads of friends that love yoga. And if they also don't like spreadsheets as much and they also don't want to lead a tech build, then you are, slightly in a difficult position further down the line. Yes. So it is about understanding that, like, if you could spend your life doing 3 to 5 things, what those 3 to 5 things would be, and not putting a value judgment on that, just knowing that is who you are. And then understanding that if you could find someone that could do the other 3 to 5 things which go into a business, and broadly kind of product, financials, marketing, business development, and I'd say strategy, I think probably everyone should be strong at, because obviously strategy is the direction you set for your business. And if you can find other pieces of that puzzle that complement you, you are just going to have a much easier time getting any business off the ground than if you find someone who's just like you, and then you struggle to fill the voids, because there will be voids, and it's magnified like you never would imagine when you start a business. Those gaps are absolutely pronounced, because things just don't happen unless they're filled.
Of course, because also as well, you're not, even though you've got a company name by this stage, you're not going, oh, I'll just check with the 312 staff that I've got in the back room. From the beginning, it's just the two of you, and you're figuring it out. And I'm interested to know how, because I guess you made this move probably when you were the most tired, the most overwhelmed, the most kind of your time being dictated by 3 little people. How did you know that you could still sort of keep going through that? Because I think sometimes, especially when I have clients, they say, gosh, actually starting your own business is really hard. And how do you sort of persevere and keep going through those tricky times?
So the truth is, when I first met Sophie, my twins were 2.5, and having twins actually it's a whole other challenge, and it puts you in a whole different kind of perspective, because you have 2 babies at once and you had none like the day before.
Yeah.
So life is hard. And when I met her, they were just coming through a phase where I kind of think with twins, after 3, you can breathe a bit more. You can be in a shopping centre and not worry about the imminent loss of one child going down an escalator when one's going in a lift.
That waving at you, and you're like, oh, okay.
Maybe it's just 3 months of boys. I don't know, but that was my life for 3 happy years. And when I met her, I didn't think I was going to have any more kids. I had IVF for the twins, and I really did not expect to be gifted with a baby. And I certainly wasn't planning to do IVF again. And I met her, and I completely was in the pain point that the business addresses, which is, how do I find meaningful things to do with my kids that make the memories that actually parenting is all about, and that take you a step away from the daily grind and elevate you into the state you think parenthood is all about, which is, going out, having those shared experiences, and indenting it in a shared family brain forever, because these are the daily moaning and whinging of things we'd rather forget about. So I was absolutely called to the mission, and so much so that kind of 6 months after meeting her, because I'm not, I don't jump. I kind of consider things. After 6 months of me doing my research, I quit my day job. And when I quit my day job, I started on all the kind of prototyping of what we were going to do and how we were going to build it, and working together every day. And literally 6 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. And I couldn't believe it, because when you've been through IVF, the last thing you expect is a natural pregnancy, even though you'll hear loads of I told you so's. You really, when you've had a doctor look you in the eyes and say, this ain't never going to happen, you just can't believe it. So it was a mixture of total elation of finally pursuing my dreams, and total shock about pregnancy I never thought was possible, and total, oh my goodness, how on earth am I going to do both of these things at the same time and raise money to build it? Because that was the fundamental crux of the matter. If you don't raise money in technology, it's not really that easy to build it, because it eats cash. So I went along the journey, had my kind of 8-week scan, and sat Sophie down in a cafe and said, look, gotta be honest,
we're having a child.
I just found out that I'm pregnant against all the odds a million times over. And I still want to do this, but FYI, we're going to be raising the money for the business when I'm pregnant. There's no 2 ways about it. And she's a very pragmatic and practical person who just gets to the nub of the issue every time, and just said, great, you'll be the poster girl for the business. And that was it. And that conversation lasted 5 minutes, and nobody's kind of referred to it or thought about it again. So what it meant is I was kind of growing a baby and growing a business. And I was fundraising up until the point I was 8.5 months pregnant, with a very large pashmina wrapped around me to make out that perhaps I just like wearing COS extra large dresses, to be quite frank. And I would just go on and on and on with these large pashminas until someone stopped me, and nobody did, because mainly investors are male and mainly they're too scared to ask. So
Wow.
no one ever said to me in a meeting till 2 weeks before I gave birth, "Are you pregnant?" And I never decided to announce this fact because it was quite obvious. So we did raise the money, and but if it would be a lie to say we raised it all beforehand, we raised 3/4 before I gave birth, and then within a few weeks I had to go and do some fundraising meetings, because with a fundraise, the momentum is such that you have to keep going.
Yes. I haven't raised large amounts of money before, but if people are listening and thinking, gosh, I really need that influx of a big wad of cash, how would they go about that? Where do you look? Where do you start?
Where don't you look is more the question. I think a lot of people talk about fundraising when it's over, and it's like childbirth. You know, when it's over, it's a rush of elation and aren't I fantastic? But during the process, it's painful. It goes in ways you never quite imagined, and you can't plan it exactly at the start to know where you're going to get to at the end.
Yeah.
So if breezy kind of I just raised $500,000 or $1 million or £100,000, it's actually, there's much more to it. And what that is starting with your friends and family and the dustman and the gardener and anyone you might know who give you £5, like anything.
Yeah.
Just starting with some traction of saying, can I sell my idea to people that actually care about me or know me? And then they can get SEIS, which gives everyone massive tax breaks, so they get a huge degree of their money back in the event that the business stops, and they get money off their the following year. So that's a great incentive. That allows you to go and get what's called a friends and family round. And after that, it is a case of literally going to every single person you can to see if you can source funds that might know a friend of a friend. So whether they're somebody who happens to be in hedge funds and invest some of their private money in venture capital companies, or whether they're somebody who a friend knows, you just have to go to the opening of an envelope. You have to meet friends of friends. You have to go to events. You have to go to activities. You have to be so networked, even if you have no network. You have to find your network on meetups.com, on startups, London Startups is the Facebook group, on Blooming Founders, which is an amazing Facebook group for women in London who are building companies. So you have to go out and literally find the tools to get yourself known. And then you have to craft your story. And the two both are equally hard, because crafting the story is, how do I sell my vision to somebody who might have 20, 30, 40,000 pounds to back it? How do I make mine the one they back?
Gosh, that's so interesting. And how do you do that?
Well, with trial and error. So obviously the great thing about people is they're all individuals, and every time you tell a story, you can adapt how you tell that story, both to your audience and to what has worked beforehand. So if you go into an audience on your first week, your story might change by week 3, and it's about reading, like you will know better than anyone, all the signs that the person gives you in terms of if they're buying, if they're bored, if they're what bits of your story are captivating them, and try to have it down in sort of 20 minutes, because you never know how long these people will give you for a coffee. And therefore, the shorter the window, the more you can, A, kind of say, I'm in or I'm moving on. And B, you can really kind of get the traction in terms of their next steps and spend time focusing on the next meeting. But never take a yes as a yes, because you'll always get more yeses than you do closed money, because it takes a lot of people to say yes for those to actually transact on the day. So you have to overfund your idea by at least 30%, in my opinion.
Gosh, that's so interesting. I was overhearing, kind of nebbing into a conversation the other day at Century when I was just working, and they were talking about raising funds, and the guy was sort of, I don't know, he was a real typical, he was kind of wanting to have a big power play thing of just because I'm a man, I'm clearly much better than you. And he was saying to a woman, why didn't you go for 2 million? And she said, because I didn't need it at this stage. I just needed 1.5, and I'd rather rather secure that and then go for the rest. And it was really interesting to see how that worked, because it was sort of really apparent that it was very much a man's world in that circumstance. And it sort of terrified me a little bit, because women are coming up with so many wonderful ideas because they're there on the ground living life and getting out and about and going, gosh, I really need a solution to this.
Yeah. And we are also huge, in terms of consumers, we are ultimately one of, the strongest consumer force. So not only do we want to solve our problems, but we're the ones often spending to solve the problems. Yeah. So it's a win-win with women.
Absolutely. How have
I
you...
think, though, by the way, on the women point, we went out initially, we were going to raise 250,000. And it was actually one of our female investors who had an illustrious career as a CFO of various big oil companies. And she said, women always ask for too little and men always ask for too much. And obviously that is a huge generalization. But she said, you are mad not to go out and raise 500. And Sophie and I both looked at each other thinking, really? And she said, you have no idea how much you do not want to be starting this process again before you're ready. You want to give yourself as long as possible to go and use that money for as much as it can work on evaluations. You don't want to give away too much of the company, but you want to go for as long as possible. And my God, that was the best advice we'd ever received. Ever, ever, ever.
That's so key. I found that, like, running my my group coaching course, actually what I do now is I market it and then I close it. And that has been really key, because it helps me to keep focused on one thing at a time. When I'm sort of available to all things and kind of always in that sort of outward situation, it's really hard to keep your eye on the ball, really, because you're juggling too many things. What elements of yourself have you learned throughout this process as you've started to wear all these different hats?
I've learned that my love of people and my love of being with people is a double-edged sword, because I absolutely get energy from people and it elevates me to a whole other level. I can go and go and go when I'm with others. Love it. And actually, you can't build a business from the start by spending all your time with people. Yes. Otherwise, they'll never have anything from you. And it's learning to kind of say, I know I love people and I'm going to be with people, and this business is about me being with people, but to build the product and to actually have the rigor to give something to people, I need to be locked away in a room for the next few months. And I have to kind of push through that, even though it is not my natural state. Yes. So it is kind of understanding that there are sometimes you have to do things that aren't in your comfort zone, and there's no shortcut. You have to go and do them, and you have to have the focus, understand that you can't just do the things you want to do all the time. So that I've learned a lot. And I've also learned a lot about, how you work really in a team, when it's a team you've built and a team that you are part of, how actually that process is so different to in the corporate world, because now there's no time for vanity. There's no point of appraisals. The appraisals are, have we got users? Do people love what we're doing? Yeah. And therefore, working as a team is much more meaningful and real to me than it ever has been before.
And how have you learned how to bring people on? How have you learned how to build a team? Because I know certainly later on this year, I want to get more help in terms of the day-to-day elements of my business. And I think there are some parts that I've really hung on to for way too long. And it's like, no, it's time to let them go and get that support. How do you build a team from scratch? What are you looking for? Or sort of, do you have any basic principles that you follow?
I don't know if your business will be the same, but I guess because it's early, it will be similar, which is fundamentally you have a mission about what you're here to do and what you're out to do. And if you are going to find people to join you on that mission, they've got to be people that believe it and that are prepared to roll their sleeves up and that aren't looking for the glory or the cash.
Yes.
If people are looking for the glory or the cash at an early stage startup, well, good luck to them, but they won't find a place it can handle, because we literally are totally mission driven to solve this problem for parents. And we need people who either feel the pain as a parent or who come to it thinking the challenge of solving this problem is so great that I want to be part of it. And therefore, it's very, very clear to us within less than a week if somebody can fulfill that mission and has the energy to deliver it, and actually the excitement, because it is about the journey, not the destination. It's the journey is what's addictive. The journey is what's amazing. Building something for your kind of following and answering this problem is what we're motivated to do. There isn't a case of, oh, next month we're an X bonus, or it's not that culture. Yeah. So you find very quickly if those people are right or not. And there's no test, unfortunately, better than being on the job. Of course, you can interview, you can look through your network. We don't have the wherewithal for headhunters. So, we're working within our network at this stage of the business. And of course, there are shortcuts to get people, but until they're in with their bum on the seat, it is very hard to be definitive.
And how do you figure out your home life and your work life? Because one thing I found is that when you're running your own gig, it's not just limited to 9 to 5, which has been wonderful, as in there is stuff that I can do in the evenings. But I know I have to catch myself that it actually doesn't take over, because I think this is sometimes the double-edged sword of being so passionate about what you do, is sometimes you just don't stop thinking about it. And I'm going, yeah, I'm going to do this, and I feel really inspired, and this needs to happen. And I find it really hard to switch off sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is, I don't think there is such a thing as a work-life balance. I think everything is a continuum. Yeah. And that there are days and weeks when it's all about work, and days and weeks when it's all about the kids. And ideally, every week should have a lot of both, because that's how you feel grounded as a person. But it is almost an impossible feat, because your mind can be in a place where your body is not, especially when you have young kids and all the physical demands as well as the mental demands that come with them. And for me, it's just been about understanding that I know I was put on this earth with this mission, and I know I was put on this earth to go and build something I'm proud of, my children will be proud of, and that will actually make me the fuller version of who I am. I can't apologize for that. I can't spend my life wishing I wasn't like that. Yeah. I actually have to embrace it and go forward and do as much as I can to make sure my children and my husband on the journey with me, and that they understand that there are kind of real benefits, huge benefits, especially when you're doing something in the family space. And there are also, things that aren't as great. Like I had to go to Berlin last week to speak at a conference, and it was the first time I've ever left them, apart from when I had my annual night away with my husband. And that was really hard, because it was in the middle of the week and they weren't used to it. And, they got over it with the World Cup albums I returned with, but it was really hard.
So they got over it with all the bribe.
Yeah, they got over it with the merch. It's not easy, and there is no perfect answer. And it is actually about trying to be true to yourself. I know mums in the school playground who feel the opposite. They feel they're being pushed into doing things with their life outside of the home because that's seen as the right thing to do, and they don't want to. So it actually is understanding what is true to you. What do you feel your mission is? And are you a person that needs to connect and build things in the world in that way? Because if you are, it's the same as breathing air. You can't kind of run from who you are. And therefore, if your thoughts do take up business issues when you're in the playground, you're not a terrible person. You're just being you. And it is understanding, it is owning that. And we all are on a journey with that. And every day we have our new challenges with that. But I do think it is about owning who you are and being proud of that, rather than trying to hide your light under a bushel and fit into a mold of a part-time working parent that you think you should be or that others want you to be.
Gosh, that's so true. And always I really make sure that when I leave for work, and I always make it a really positive experience, not like mummy's leaving you and choosing to go and do this. It's like mummy's going to work and to help some people and to do this, and make it a really positive experience. Because I guess as well, for what I want for my son is I want him to hang out with people who inspire him, and to for him to inspire them as well, and to really do great things in the world. You're right. It's so true.
And then, we've had Kedaddle in some of the papers, and we've been on, various media. And when I see the boys' faces, when they see Kedaddle, and they can read now, the big boys, and they can see it. And the look of, I don't know if it's pride or if it's recognition or but it's something really more special than I expected to see. And it is something about, this is what mummy did. And I could bottle that, because actually it makes me feel really, really good when I see them connecting with what I've done in the wider world.
That's amazing. And personally, what do you do to keep yourself buoyant and ready for the day and, just kind of the best version of yourself?
Not enough, because that's the one thing that really does give. I must be really honest. If I could find another 2 hours in the day, there's a lot of things I would do. The truth is, when I'm at home, the kids come first. I'm at work. When I'm at work, work comes first. And as any working mum will tell you, as you will know yourself, the hardest thing at first is yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's a mixture of the fact that I've got generally quite a lot of energy. So it's not like I need reboosting, but sometimes I just need some time to think.
Yeah.
And what I've been trying to do is at the weekend, when the baby needs to go and have his nap, he's just turned 2. So literally do that as an hour's walk with a podcast or listening to, some music, or just trying to have some time outside without anyone asking me for something.
Yes.
Just trying to have that once or twice a weekend, get connected, because there isn't the time at the moment for me to go to a gym and do all the things I'd like to do, like a yoga session, because with 3 kids under 6, weekends are frenetic. But just trying to get like tiny little slice. Also using, I work in Waterloo and I live in North London, so using that tube journey to try and take stock rather than to read Stylist every day. Whether it's, there's some amazing podcasts like yours I listen to that inspire me and really get me focused. And even if I take 2 or 3 things from them, it can really kind of frame my day. And trying to keep friends close, because the hardest thing about a startup journey is your family in the startup takes so much of your time. It's really easy to disconnect from friends. And trying even once a week to have an evening once you put the kids to bed with friends, or whether that's an evening where you go straight from work out, I think it's actually more important than you realise at the time, because it gives you an outlet and it makes you connect with something outside of those 2 things.
That's so right. And actually, I never get my ideas when I'm sitting at my desk. I usually get them when I'm out in the world or in the shower or driving or all of those elements, rather than for me, it's not about if I put in 12 hours sitting at this desk, this is going to make me do the best kind of work. Actually, I do need to live and breathe in the world as well.
Absolutely. And Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, says every day she kind of triples the length of her drive to the office, because that's the time when she has the inspiration. I think founders of any businesses or people that work in businesses need time. As a parent, there's no time to think. That's why we built Kedaddle, to give you that outlet. But there's other things you need to think about too in your life. And it's just giving someone the space to do that outside of the structures of being in an office environment.
Totally. Let's talk more about the app. What can people find on there, and how can they use it to the best of their advantage?
The whole point of the app is the more you give, the more you get. So if you put your children's ages, and I just mean the year and month of birth, not anything else, and their interests, you will get a curated and personalised list of things to do every single day. If you don't, you'll get everything that's on in London. So the user value for you will obviously be lessened. The aim is that every family is unique, and what you should see on Kedaddle should be unique to your family. And therefore, the more you invest in it, and I'm talking a couple of minutes of your life, not a bit more, the more you get back from it. And the aim is, as your family grows and as their interests change, my kids could be into Ben 10, then Batman, then Ninjago, all different things. It iterates with you. You should only be seeing the content on Kedaddle that resonates with you, and it should give you a positive companion to discover and put everything that's relevant to you within the touch of a button within a couple of minutes, and become, as we evolve, it will become an app that learns really what your family likes and other things you might like that are relevant, and also a product that helps you whether you're at home or whether you're abroad. That is the vision.
That's brilliant. And I love that actually it's not, 40 quid a ticket for everything that's on there. You've got the Ali Pali Farmers Market, which has saved many a Sunday morning. And it's educational as well, because you could just wander around, chat about some veg, have some nice food, happy days. Absolutely. Even more than a quarter of the stuff on the app is totally free. We are not here to rinse parents of cash and just give them high value tickets. We're here to give you the whole experience of what being a parent in a city can give you, and to give you everything that you can choose and book. So it can be a free drop-in at the National Gallery, doing sculpture, up to going to see Annie and getting a great deal for your tickets, and everything in between. Because we all know that our parenting journey has some of the
paid stuff, some of the free stuff, some of the stuff we've done a million times, and some new stuff. And it's about understanding that and offering a better solution for that, rather than trying to pigeonhole parents into one thing or another.
That's so right. And actually where your kid's at. I remember when Oscar was, I don't know, less than a year for sure. Yeah. And he was sort of, toddling around and crawling and things like that. And the amount of times where we would have friends and family down, but we would meet at the National Theatre, not because we thought Oscar was some kind of gifted actor by any means, but because it had space to crawl and, he could just roam around and have a great time. And you as the adults just felt like you could sit and at least drink your coffee while it was still warm. Happy days.
Absolutely. And we think of Kedaddle as that place for parents to connect. And you'll be seeing ever more of that on the product as we evolve over the coming months. But it is about the digital place as well as the physical place. And it is about places that fill a void that aren't necessarily what you would imagine as places where families would go. Because actually, there's so many venues and so many events that aren't labelled as kid-friendly, but that can be the best times you ever have.
Yes. I've seen that over the years at Glastonbury, that, it was never sort of labelled as a kid sort of situation. But it's so nice to see, people, pensioners with their deck chairs and also little kids with sort of unicorns on their head kind of having a lovely time as well.
That's what it's all about.
So where would you like to be in 5 years' time, as my final question? In business, in life, what's the plan?
The plan. Well, I'm not a great planner, if I'm really honest.
It's a big question for a Sunday morning.
But the plan would be to have a business that is stable, but growing. So rather than kind of being in frenetic growth mode like we are now, that we kind of have a stable, platform that is kind of in various cities around the world that actually solves a problem for parents, whether they're at home or abroad. So we are a business that is recognised far more globally and has meaning to people in different cities across the globe that come together and unite around what Kedaddle stands for, and making those extraordinary family memories. To build a team that is as great as the team we have now, but bigger, because obviously you can't build it all with a team under 10 people, and you have to actually find those amazing people that come on your journey with you, and to make sure that I'm a very present parent that knows exactly what's going on in my kids' lives, that is able to do the school trip, that is able to, understand their unique friendships and their unique struggles and their unique joys in their week to week, and that I know what's going on. I haven't delegated that and part of that, and I am very much their mum and not kind of their mum that flies in and flies out. I want to be part of their school time, and I want to be part of that school gates chat, and I want to be able to be present whilst building a business. I think it's eminently possible. It's all about how you compartmentalize your time and how you think of what your goals are. And for me, I'm happy to work in the evenings, and I'm happy to do stuff when they're asleep and before they wake up. But there are certain things I treasure, and I'm not going to lose sight of those things, because that's why I'm on this journey,
And it makes you way more productive. I've certainly found that I've done more in 2.5 years, probably than I did in the last 5 years, because I just get stuff done now because I've got a purpose. I've got a why. I know why I'm doing this. And if anything, I'm way more ambitious. I've got that back again.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think parenting is an absolute gift in enabling people, especially me, because I do a lot of things a lot of the time, to really, really focus, because it is like an egg timer has been turned in every window of time that you've got, and you can see the sound dripping through, and you have to deliver, and there is nothing more meaningful than that. It makes you supercharged.
Yeah, it really does. If people want to come and find out more about Kedaddle and you, where shall they go?
They should go to find the app on their app store, which is spelled Kidaddl, and you can find it on iOS and Android. We also have a website where you can get it called kedaddle.com. And to find out about me, if you want to follow the ups and downs of life with startup and 3 kids, it's Hannah Kedaddle on Instagram.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness, I've learnt so much. I'm going to get dressed, go to the farmer's market, and then I'm going to raise some cash. No.
Oh, yeah. Great talking to you, Nikki.
Can you imagine? Thank you so much. You've been so great. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear what you thought of the episode and share any takeaways with me. Come and find me across social media at Nicky Raby, or you can visit the podcast page, nickyraby.com/podcast.